Check YouTube. What's going on? It's Drew here, back at it with another little video, and I'm currently on day 5 of wearing my hair system. As you can tell, I've undergone a pretty big transformation. I have long hair now, and like a week ago I didn't. So I want to get into all that, give you some background on what led me to this point and why I'm feeling so good right now in this current moment. So when I was 18 years old, back in my senior year of high school, my hairline began to start receding, and it started to kind of start receding on the corners as well as the actual top of the head. But I didn't really pay attention to it. No one ever told me, and I was kind of lacking self-awareness up until like in my early to mid 20s is when I'm really starting to gain that self-awareness on like my physical appearance, and I'll talk about all that. But at the time I didn't notice, and looking back at pictures now, it wasn't very extreme balding, but it was starting to show signs at an early age. And by the time I was about 21, 22, that's when I thought, okay, I really have to start doing something about this, because this was the time in my life where I'm starting to express myself through my physical appearance. You know, it's so important, the external and how you present yourself to the world and how that makes you feel on the internal. I mean, seriously, just looking in the mirror every day and being comfortable with who you look at is so important, such a base foundation before you go out into the world and show your best self. But anyways, yeah, so when I was in my early 20s, I started hair loss medication. I joined a Reddit forum called Tressless, which was incredibly helpful, and I just searched on there all these tips and tricks, and basically what it came down to was minoxidil and finasteride. And finasteride basically inhibits the DHT production, which is the chemical you produce in your brain that contributes to hair loss. And that's the thing about male pattern baldness, man. Like, you can try the holistic approaches and the massages and the different shampoos and conditioners, but at the end of the day, if you're predisposed to go bald, if you see men in your family that don't have hair, that's probably not a good sign. If you're someone who wants to hold on to your hair, right? Like, that's not implying that bald isn't beautiful. I see beautiful bald men and women everywhere. But I know for some of us, it's something that's really hard to move past, and it makes us feel insecure, and it makes us feel like we look way older, or just someone that we don't even recognize when we look in the mirror. You know, we have our hair for so long, and once you start to lose something, it's like you never even really appreciate it until it's gone. So I started the minoxidil, putting it on my hairline and the sides of my temples every day, as well as the finasteride, just to prevent further loss and hope for regrowth. And I was on that for about 6 months on that regimen before I bit the bullet and I flew to Turkey to get a hair transplant. And that whole experience was absolutely crazy. Let's not talk about the 16-hour flight where I was on the Turkish Airlines in the middle seat between 2 Turkish women who were beautiful and amazing to sit by, but it's just the comfort level wasn't really on max. And not to mention, on the flight home, when we flew back from Turkey, instead of going straight back to the US, we like took a detour real quick. So like, it was Qatar Airlines, and it went from like Turkey to like more east, went to Qatar, and then from Qatar back to the US, and like there was like a sandstorm going on in Qatar. So like when we landed, and they didn't even have like the little hallway you walk through to get on the plane, it was like these stairs. So like we literally pulled up and there's like fucking sand going everywhere, and we get off these stairs and it's like wooden stairs, bro. They're all crickety and shit, and I'm like, yo, how did I end up here? I got like a freshly shaved head, like red stripe, you know, if you've seen those TikToks where they're in the Turkish Airlines and they're flying back from Turkey and like everyone has a hair transplant. Yeah, that was like me. And so they implanted 2,300 grafts from the back of my head into the front of my hairline. And then for the next several months, this was back in June of 2021, and now it's April 2022. So it started growing over those next few months, and those first few months, like when you get a hair transplant, are terrible, dude. You don't look good. I mean, because basically once they implant the follicles, they all fall out. So like your head's shaved, you have no follicles that you should have, and it's just like, oh my gosh, that I had to really push through mentally. I was wearing hats everywhere. That was tough. I even remember when I went down to LA for a little bit, and I was at one of these gay bars, and I was like talking to this cute guy, and we were like dancing or whatever, and then he was like, and I was wearing a hat, and he's like, what do you look like without your hair? And he took my hat off, and like my hairline was all like crickety, and like it was like 2 months after the transplant. I was just like, he was like, yeah, let's put that back on. I was like, yeah. And so over the course of those months, my hair started to slowly start growing, but then it just got to this point where it got stagnant for a couple of months, and it stopped growing, and the hair got real frizzy. It's like the texture almost kind of changed, and you know, people couldn't notice, but I could when I looked in the mirror, and it almost looked like, you know, the color of the hair on the front was different because they took it from the back, and when I'd brush it down, it just looked real thin and wiry in the front. It didn't look healthy, and my hair was chronically dry ever since I was really young, like, and that's a genetic thing too. Like, my dad's always had very dry hair, so I mean, I can do the deep conditioning masks and shit, but at the end of the day, genetics are gonna fuck you sometimes. And yeah, so like every day I'd wake up and I'd be unhappy with how my hair looked. I'd have to literally shower every day, which would contribute to the dryness, just so I could style it in a halfway decent way. But it just wasn't giving the look that I wanted to give. You know, sitting here at 24 years old, in debatably some of my sexiest years, and I didn't have this look that I wanted to go for. You know, I didn't have this beautiful head of hair that I wanted to express myself with. And so then I found Hair System. And I knew Hair Systems had been talked about on Reddit forums and stuff, but I never really gave them much thought until I started seeing how good they were looking. And so I was actually on TikTok, which is like the modern day search engine, man. And I was just typing in Hair System and seeing all these transformations. And yeah, my hair wasn't as receded as far back, but it was really starting to thin behind the transplant. And I knew it was inevitable. And on top of that, I knew that I would never have the dream hair I wanted to have. And with these Hair Systems, it was possible. And so for me, it was actually a pretty simple decision. I was like, I want to look like this, and the route to get there is this way. And so that's what I'm going to take. And so I find myself like fascinated with all this. And so I go on Amazon and I just order a male hair system from Lord Hair because I had done some research and like Lord Hair was one of the bigger brands. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to put this over my natural hair I have now and just see what it looks like. And this is also 5 days wearing. And I just got back from like a heavy bass EDM concert and I saw I was sweating. So I'm probably about to remove this today. It looks like the hairline's lifting just a little bit up top, but that's okay. And so the hair unit comes in. I'm so excited. I've been waiting for it. I rip it out of the bag. I put it on a little mannequin head, brush it real quick and just throw it on my head. And I'm like, damn. Like, even though it wasn't installed and it was looking all puffy, it looks like I found someone's grandpa's toupee on the side of the road and just threw it on my head. But I was just so shocked because it looked better than my actual hair. It looked healthier, it looked more voluminous. It just looked like how a 24-year-old's hair should look if he wanted to grow it out and like really took care of it. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, all right, like it was inching me closer to doing the process. And so then I found Jake Kent on YouTube, which is an amazing guy. I actually just did an interview with him, which was like full circle because he was like my knight in shining armor, man, when it came to hair systems and what comes with it and really getting knowledgeable on it. And by this point, you're probably wondering like, okay, he's saying hair system a lot, but isn't that just a wig? Yeah, technically it is a wig, but male hair systems are meant to stay on your head for several weeks at a time. The hair itself is 100% real European hair. You wash it a couple times a week. You put leave-in conditioners and oils. You treat it with care just like you would your normal hair, you know? And I just saw the videos of people swimming in them and like showering them, and obviously that's not recommended, but like you can get them wet, you can shower with them, and it stays on because there's an adhesive underneath. And I'm just using tape. You can use tape or glue. So basically what happens when you go to a hair system specialist, or you can just install them at your house, but I definitely recommend going to a stylist for like your first couple of like maintenances and installs and stuff like that, just to kind of see firsthand what you do. You can also use YouTube videos, but still, I just recommend going to a stylist at first, just to get you in the door and make you look your best self so you're confident and you're like, okay, I can do this. And so I find myself like obsessing over these videos, right? Like I'm just watching a ton of different videos on YouTube and people's experiences and all that. And so I'm curious and I want to see anyone in Texas who's doing this. And so I'm researching, and I find this guy named Chris Mackey, who's one of the few people who does hair systems. I'm in Dallas, he's in Houston, so it's like a 4-hour drive. And I see the work he's doing and I'm like, damn, this is awesome. Like I didn't see a lot of long hair, which I was kind of concerned about because I was like, I want this long moment, you know, like I want my moment to be now and I want to have long hair. And so I reached out to him and I kind of told him my story and what I was going for, and he said, we could totally do that. I end up driving 4 hours to see him, and then I get in the chair and I'm like, okay, shit, like here we go. So I tell him my story, what I just told you and what led me to this point. We have great conversation, and I even told him, I'm like, man, what you're doing here, like you're literally changing people's lives. Like not enough people know about this. Like people come in here and they're almost like ashamed of what they're doing, but they shouldn't be because they leave feeling like their best selves. And like, it's crazy what hair can do for someone's appearance. And I said it earlier, bald is beautiful, but like for me anyways, having a nice head of hair just to shape my face, not have my forehead look so damn big, you know, like that was something that I really wanted. So I'm in the chair, I bring the system, I just ordered the system on Amazon. And so Chris starts the process and he starts cutting out the system because it's a stock unit. And so it's a little bit bigger than my natural head. So he just kind of cut it out to fit my head and made like a little shaper thing to know how big my scalp was. And then the shaving came, and this was big for me because I mean, you know, even with this transplant, I invested a lot of money and time, and I had waited so long for it to grow. And so this was like 8 months of growth we were about to shave off. And so right before he turns on the clippers, he's like, you sure? He's like, I gotta ask all the clients about this. Like, I'm about to shave this. Are you ready? And I was like, man, I drove 4 hours. Like I was born ready. Come on, let's do this. I'm ready for this next chapter. I'm ready for this new era, this reinvention of self, you know? And so he starts shaving it. And I wasn't super shocked, you know, for my transplant, I've had a shaved head. So like I knew what it was like. It did look kind of funny with like the grandpa cut on the side, but after that I knew it was time to enter this new chapter, you know. And so we grabbed the hair system and we just did tape this time. I know some people like to do glue and some hair system stylists like to do glue, but like based on my research and what I wanted out of my system, I just wanted to do only tape, and Chris was totally cool with that. And so Chris knew that I was going to like a heavy EDM concert that weekend, and he said usually you can just put tape on the system itself, but we did put a little tape on my actual head this time around just to make sure it was really secure. He puts tape all around the edge of the system, places it on, and then like all of a sudden, man, he gets it wet, brushes it, whatever. I'm like, whoa, like this just like completely changed my appearance, you know? We took some videos and some pictures, and I just walked out of that place and I looked at myself and I took these pictures of myself and I was just like, whoa, like this is, I looked in my car mirror and I was like literally sitting outside of the salon for like an extra hour just like looking at myself, and I was just like, holy shit, like this is how I feel I'm supposed to look right now, you know, with everything I'm doing in my appearance. You know, I'm in the stage where I'm customizing my avatar, you know, it's like a video game. We were all given our little characters and we're meant to customize it however we choose necessary that makes us feel most comfortable in our own skin, you know, whether it's tattoos or piercings or items of clothing or hair color or hair itself. Like these are all just ways that we can present ourselves to the world that expresses our aura. And I could go on and on and on about this, but it hasn't even been a week yet, and so I'm just really excited going into this new chapter. And like I just feel so much more confident. After I left the salon, I stopped by my friend Rachel's in this little college town that's on the way back, and we went out and like I was just getting so many more compliments. Like it's just crazy. Even just like long hair, you know, I was just like, people were coming up to me, grabbing my waist, telling me I was sexy and shit, and loving my look. And because I was just wearing like this mesh, like fishnet almost long sleeve, like it was a look. But I just couldn't help but be all smiles all night. And yeah, so that's really all I got. You know, day 5, I will keep you updated, and if you have any questions or anyone finds this that wants to know more, I'm here for you. Do what makes you happy, own yourself in the moment. We only have the now, y'all. There's the future, and the past is irrelevant because nothing's guaranteed, okay? The past already happened. If anything this world has taught us in these past few years, whether it's our own mental struggles or it's the environment around us, like tomorrow is not guaranteed. And so do what makes you happy and feel your best right now. Sending love and positive energy your way. Have an amazing day.